Crying Arab millionaire's baby on plane found Hope, Indiana. Unexpected friendship with black girl. Amir sat in the bustling Chicago airport terminal, the weight of his recent business deal bearing down on him like an anchor. His heart raced as he cradled his wailing daughter, Layla. Tears streamed down her tiny cheeks, echoing the turmoil inside him. He was an Arab millionaire, yet here he was trapped by expectations, struggling to juggle success and fatherhood in a foreign land. All around him, the world whirled on, but for Amir, time stood still, marked only by his daughter's cries. Nearby, 10-year-old Jasmine spotted the distressed baby. The vibrant colors of her backpack seemed to replicate the joy she carried in her heart. With a gentle tug, she pulled out a colorful drawing, a bright sun shining over a wide blue sky. She approached Amir, her innocence shining through. "Excuse me, sir," she said, her voice soft yet confident. "I think your baby might like this." Amir looked down, his heart aching as he considered the genuine kindness behind her gesture. He accepted the drawing, and in that moment, Layla's cries softened into curious coos. Jasmine beamed, her wide smile lighting up the space between them. It was a small connection, yet it felt monumental amidst the chaos of life. As they settled into their seats on the plane, Amir and Jasmine began to talk. He shared the bittersweet reality of leaving his homeland, where his name echoed with pride, battling social prejudices that shadowed him in America. Jasmine nodded, sharing stories of her own harrowing tales of facing judgment on the playground because of her skin color. Amidst their tales of struggle, a mutual bond blossomed, a delicate thread weaving their lives together. Suddenly, the calmness shattered when a fellow passenger tossed a prejudiced remark, like a stone thrown into still waters. The atmosphere in the cabin thickened, a tidal wave of discomfort washing over the passengers. Amir's chest tightened at the injustice. He glanced at Jasmine, whose eyes widened in disbelief. He felt the need to defend her, but fear gnawed at his insides. What if taking a stand jeopardized the business deal he poured his soul into finalizing? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The plane lurched, turbulence shaking the cabin. Amir's heart raced in sync with the aircraft. He couldn't let this moment pass. Ignoring the pounding in his chest, he turned to the passenger. "That's not right," he said, his voice steady yet powerful. The words felt liberating, a stand for justice against prejudice. Jasmine's face flushed with gratitude, and they shared a look, an unspoken understanding. Then, as if on cue, Layla let out a giggle, her laughter ringing out like a siren of hope. The cabin lightened, smiles spread, a small act of joy glimmering through tension. In this moment, Amir and Jasmine realized their bond was a beacon amidst the storm. As Amir held his daughter close, he questioned everything he thought he valued: success, wealth, and the meaning of true friendship. Would he stand firm against societal divides, or let the pressures of status push him away from what really mattered? The flight continued, leaving them suspended in a world of possibilities, their connection a flicker of hope in a sometimes dark landscape. Amir felt the weight of those words linger in the air, a silent declaration that neither he nor Jasmine could ignore. It was as if the turbulence outside echoed the turmoil within him, his thoughts swirling, challenging the core of who he thought he was. Jasmine, sensing the shift, leaned closer. "You were brave," she whispered, her eyes sparkling with a mix of admiration and wonder. "I wish I could be that brave all the time." Amir smiled gently, but the uneasiness gnawed at him. What did bravery look like for him? Was it standing up against ignorance, or was it more about protecting Layla, ensuring she had a better future in a world where nightmares disguised as reality often crept in? In that moment, he wanted to be more than just a successful businessman. He wanted to be a father his daughter could look up to, one who raised her to understand the importance of kindness over prejudice. The plane dipped again, propelling them back to the present. Despite the spark of camaraderie igniting between the two, the air was taut with uncertainty. Amir glanced around, feeling the eyes of other passengers, some disapproving, some approving, but most just curious. Their perceptions danced around him, shaping his every move. He turned to Layla, who was now reaching for Jasmine. "Do you think she likes your drawing?" he asked. "Of course. I think she loves it," Jasmine responded, her enthusiasm infectious. Layla giggled again, her tiny hand grasping at Jasmine's long braids, her coos filling the space with life. Suddenly, the airplane crew announced they were preparing for landing. The swift reminder of the world awaiting them outside brought a flash of realism that lashed at Amir's heart. It felt bittersweet. The hope that bloomed in his chest contradicted the lingering fear about how this friendship would stand against life's harsh judgments. As the plane taxied to the gate, Amir turned back to Jasmine. "What will you do next?" Jasmine smiled broadly, her youthful energy painting the air vibrantly. "I want to create more drawings. I think they can make people happy, to make them see the world in bright colors. That's beautiful. You can change countless lives with your art," Amir replied, his admiration for her igniting a flicker of courage in him. Just then, something shifted. The moment they were all waiting for, the applause erupted as the plane came to a stop. Yet instead of relief from the journey, Amir felt a tightness in his throat. He feared that the spark they had ignited would fizzle out in the chaotic world beyond the plane. As passengers rose to collect their bags, Amir and Jasmine shared a glance, the unspoken bond strong. "Promise me something," Amir said. "No matter what happens out there, we will stay in touch. This friendship means too much. Promise." Jasmine beamed, sealing their pact as they stepped into the busy terminal. The crowd surged around them, each face a potential ally or adversary, but now, there was hope in Amir's heart, an ember glowing bright. As they made their way towards the baggage claim, suddenly, a loud argument erupted nearby. A hushed crowd began to gather, drawn to the commotion. Amir's mind raced. What would they find there? Would it tear them apart, or could it bind them even closer in shared resolve? What waited beyond the surface of this moment was unclear, but one thing was certain: Amir's journey was just beginning. Amir's heart raced as he turned toward the source of the shouting. The crowd was thickening, and the voices grew louder, a mixture of frustration and anger. He could feel Layla's grip tightening around his finger, her innocence oblivious to the tension brewing just a few feet away. "What is going on?" Amir asked Jasmine, who was peering past him to catch a glimpse of the scene unfolding. Her eyes, once bright with enthusiasm, now shared his worry. I don't know," she stammered. He took a deep breath, fighting against the urge to keep moving toward the safety of the baggage area. But something about the commotion tugged at him. It was a gut feeling, urging him to step into the chaos rather than away from it. "We should check it out," he said, his voice steady in spite of the uncertainty swirling in his mind. As they approached the fracas, the words became clearer. A man, visibly upset, was arguing with a police officer, gesturing wildly as he spoke. "You don't understand," he shouted. "I have rights. Just because I look different doesn't mean I deserve this treatment." The officer remained calm, holding up his hands in a gesture meant to placate. "Sir, let's just ask you a few questions. You just want to humiliate me in front of everyone." The man's voice cracked, and the anger in his tone turned to desperation. "I didn't do anything wrong." A woman nearby chimed in, "Let him go. This is ridiculous. He hasn't done anything to deserve this." Amir felt a knot in his stomach as he witnessed the unfolding injustice. His instincts screamed to intervene. Would this moment become a turning point for him? Would he stand up for someone being treated unfairly, just like he hoped Layla would in the future? Jasmine nudged him. "What if he gets arrested?" Her voice trembled slightly, and Amir could see the fear in her eyes. "Maybe we could help?" he suggested, surprised by the resolve forming inside him. It was a mixture of fear and bravery, but he could feel something within him shift. Before he fully realized it, he stepped closer to the confrontation. "Excuse me," he called, raising his hand as if trying to break through the chaos. The crowd turned toward him, a swell of looks ranging from confusion to curiosity. Layla continued to watch from Amir's arms, her wide eyes soaking in the intensity around them. "Everyone deserves to be treated with respect," Amir said, his voice shaking but loud enough to cut through the chaos. "This man is just trying to defend himself. Don't we all have the right to just be heard?" The officer glanced at Amir, his expression unreadable. The arguing man turned his focus toward him, a flicker of hope crossing his face. "Finally, someone who sees it." Jasmine took a step forward, her small hand resting on Amir's arm. "We shouldn't let this happen to anyone, right?" she echoed, her voice rising with newfound confidence. The crowd began to murmur among themselves, a collective energy shifting from fear to solidarity. Amir could feel the tension in the air beginning to crack, and for the first time since he landed, he felt something blossom inside him, an awakening. But just as the atmosphere shifted, he saw a group of airport security rushing toward them. Panic pressed against his chest. What would happen next? Would he be able to keep this spark of unity alive, or would everything collapse in an instant? Despite the chaos swirling around him, one thing was clear: Amir was ready to fight for what mattered, not just for himself, but for those all around him. As the officer took a step toward him, Amir felt his heart pounding. He had crossed the line into something new, something transformative. But would his act of bravery turn into a blessing or a curse? The moment hung heavy, poised for resolution, as questions filled the air. What was about to happen next could change everything. Amir's breath quickened as the security guards approached. Their uniforms seemed a sudden weight in the room. It was as if the crowd was holding its breath, waiting to see how this played out. Layla squirmed in his arms, sensing the tension, her small face pressed against him. He could feel her tiny heartbeat, a steady reminder of innocence amidst the chaos. "Step back, folks," one of the guards shouted, pushing a few spectators aside. His tone was commanding, but there was an edge of impatience that made Amir's stomach churn. The man he tried to support turned to Amir, desperation pooling in his eyes. "You don't understand. They always do this." "Please, sir," the officer interjected, raising his voice, trying to regain control of the situation. "We need to follow the protocols. Just cooperate." "No." Amir stepped up, shaking with a mix of fear and conviction. "He is right. Why should he be treated this way just because he looks different? We should be creating community, not division." The crowd murmured again, voices rising and falling like a wave. Some people nodded in agreement while others looked uncertain, glancing between the security guards and Amir's determined face. It felt like a pivot point, a moment drawn tight with tension. Jasmine, emboldened by Amir's courage, called out, "We stand with him. Everyone deserves respect." Amir watched as more people began to echo her sentiment. The woman from earlier stepped forward, her fists clenched. "This is wrong. We won't let you keep treating people like this just because they express themselves." The security officers exchanged uneasy glances. But Amir could see the shift happening. The atmosphere thickened with a new kind of energy, a collective sense of defiance. It sent a thrill through him, a spark igniting the hope that had seemed dim moments before. Then, without meaning to, he raised Layla higher in his arms, her eyes peeking out curiously at the commotion. "Look at her," Amir urged, his voice calmer now, focused. "This is the future. She's too young to understand judgment. She deserves a world where everyone is free to be themselves." He could see the hesitance in some of the spectators melting, small smiles appearing among the crowd like flowers popping out after a long winter. The officer who had initially protested took a step closer, looking conflicted. "I'm just doing my job," he repeated softly, almost to himself. "Then be the change," Amir said, his heart racing, desperate for his words to pierce through. "Help us create a world worth living in. One where our differences make us stronger, not weaker." Suddenly, there was an unexpected sound. It started as a few claps, hesitant and unsure, then grew into a rhythm, people joining in as a chorus of support. He felt a shift in the air, a crack in the anger that had surrounded them all. But amid the applause, the tension wasn't fully gone. The other security guards remained stony-faced, not yielding yet. There was still the threat of conflict behind the waves of hope. Something had changed in Amir. He understood now that standing up wasn't just about protest, it was about unity and vulnerability. But the scene still felt fragile. They needed to keep supporting each other. Perseverance was crucial now. As the wave of clapping turned into chants of solidarity, Amir felt a sense of urgency wash over him. If they were to turn this around, they'd have to fight for it, to stay standing when everything around them was swaying. What will happen if they continue to push back? He wondered, knowing the path ahead would require more than just bravery. In the heart of it all, one question echoed through Amir's mind like a drum beat, growing louder with each passing moment: what price would they pay for their freedom? Amir felt his heart hammering in his chest. The crowd's chants surged around him, a wave of solidarity washing over his fears. But just as hope began to blossom in his chest, he glanced at the stone-faced guards, muscles tensed like coiled springs. He sensed the storm wasn't over yet. Jasmine placed her hand on Amir's shoulder, anchoring him in this chaotic moment. "What if they don't back down?" she whispered, her gaze flickering to the guards. Her voice trembled slightly, revealing her concerns, and Amir wished he had answers, but before he could respond, a loud voice broke through the murmuring crowd. "Enough!" It belonged to a taller guard, the leader. He stepped forward, his demeanor conveying an unwavering authority. "You all think this is a joke? You want to stand in our way? You don't know what you're asking for." Amir swallowed hard, feeling Layla shift in his arms, sensing the tension in the air. He wanted to protect her, to shield her from all the harsh realities that lay hidden in the world. "We're not trying to resist you," Amir called out, his voice firm despite the anxiety clawing at him. "We just want a little kindness." The crowd rallied again, voices rising, and a powerful chant broke free, intertwining with the sound of clapping. "Freedom, respect, unity," they cried, a powerful mantra that seemed to ignite a spark of courage within Amir, but the commanding guard took another step forward, his eyes narrowing. "This isn't a game. If you don't disperse now, you will face consequences." The crowd winced at his words, a ripple of fear crossing their faces. Amir could sense their doubt creeping in, the air thickening with uncertainty. "Stay strong," he shouted, trying to drown out the guard's threat. "We are all in this together." He felt Layla's tiny fingers grip his shirt tighter. The urgency in the air intensified as people around him took a collective breath, ready to either stand firm or retreat. In that moment, Amir's gaze wandered, searching for the familiar faces that had turned into allies this evening. But instead, he locked eyes with the young boy from earlier, a quiet kid who had been watching the scene unfold. As they regarded each other, something shifted in the boy's expression. He looked inspired yet frightened, the weight of the moment heavy on his small shoulders. "Hey!" Amir called, gesturing the boy over. "You're not alone. None of us are." When the boy hesitated, Amir felt a rush of determination. He motioned towards him, urging him to come closer. "Together, we're strong. Look around you. Look at everyone here." The boy's eyes darted to the gathered crowd and then back at Amir. Slowly, he moved forward, pushing through the sympathetic faces, reaching Amir's side. Layla giggled softly, as if sensing the bond forming, her innocence breaking through the tension. Suddenly, the moment felt different. Amir realized that they weren't just a crowd, they were a community. This young boy, with all his uncertainties, represented a shared vision of courage, a reminder that every voice mattered. See? Amir smiled at him, a warmth flooding his heart. You have a voice, too. Don't be afraid to use it. Just as the boy was about to respond, a muffled sound erupted from the entrance. Another group of security guards arrived. This time, they looked angrier, their expressions hardened by the escalating defiance. Amir inhaled sharply. Fear began to creep back in, gnawing at his resolve. He looked at Jasmine, at the boys gathering by his side, at Layla, each person, a thread in a tapestry of hope. What now? He asked himself, heart pounding as he assessed the new threat. As the second group advanced like storm clouds rolling in, Amir's pulse quickened. The fight was still on, but he understood they couldn't back down. People had come together for something greater than themselves. As long as they stood united, hope lingered in the air. They faced a choice: would they stand tall together against the storm, or would they scatter like leaves in the wind? And in that heartbeat of uncertainty, he knew one thing above all: this was just the beginning. The question loomed in his mind: was their unity strong enough to weather the storm that was coming? Amir's heart raced as the new guards formed a tight ring around the gathered crowd. The palpable tension turned the air electric, and he could see the flicker of fear in the eyes of those who had joined this stand for kindness. But he also saw something else: a determination that mirrored his own. Stay close, Amir instructed Layla, instinctively tightening his hold on her. Behind him, a murmur of voices surged as the crowd reconsidered their next move. It wasn't just fear that stiffened their backs, it was unity. The young boy at his side shifted anxiously, his expression wavering between courage and doubt. Are you ready? Amir asked the boy softly, kneeling so they were eye to eye. We've got this. Remember what we talked about? You can be brave. The boy nodded hesitantly, and Amir offered a reassuring smile. He could feel Layla's tiny fingers digging into his shirt, not out of fear but from a need to hold on to her brother, to understand that in this moment, everything seemed both fragile and powerful. The leader of the guards advanced another step, his voice like ice piercing through the thrumming chants. You have one last chance to disperse peacefully. His eyes bore into Amir, challenging him, and again, fear crackled through the crowd like a dark cloud. That's not going to happen. Jasmine's voice boomed from beside Amir, fiercer than he had ever heard it. You have no power over us. The words seemed to resonate, rippling through the community gathered around. One by one, people stepped closer to Amir, each growing stronger in the face of the threat. Can you feel it? Amir murmured to the boy. This is what it means to be part of something bigger, a community that won't back down. And in that moment of connection, Amir felt a warmth rising within him. It wasn't just hope, it was defiance, a shared spirit of resilience. He turned to the crowd and raised his voice high: if we want change, we need to be fearless. We have every right to stand here, united in our demand for kindness. The energy shifted, voices began to rise hotter. Kindness. Kindness. The crowd chanted, louder now, drowning out the guards. Amir's heart swelled. He had not only sparked a fire in himself, but in everyone around him, the young boy, Layla, Jasmine, and each individual warrior standing steadfast. Together, they were more than a collective of individuals, they were a force. But before the crowd could build on that energy, the guards advanced, shields raised. This ends now. The leader barked, his voice low and threatening like thunder. Stand your ground. Amir shouted, feeling the tremors of his own voice rallying the spirits of those nearby. He envisioned a world where no one had to cower before tyranny, where every whispered sorrow would find its voice. The growing changes in the crowd's demeanor didn't go unnoticed. Amir watched as fear began to shift into defiance among the ranks. Hands clutched tightly at side by side, voices intertwined, and hearts beat as one. But then, a sudden movement from the guards sent a ripple of panic. They surged forward, attempting to push through the crowd, wielding batons and shields. The chant splintered, fear suddenly clawing back at their resolve. Amir, Jasmine called, the concern infused with urgency as the collective shout stumbled, losing momentum. What do we do? He glanced back at the boy, who stood on the brink of tears, and then at Layla, her little face scrunched in confusion. Everything hung in the balance. Could they stand firm? Amir locked eyes with Jasmine, a silent pact forming between them. We fight back with love, he said, his voice steadying. We hold our ground. But as the guards pressed closer, something told Amir the tide could turn in an instant. A choice was looming over them all, and he took a deep breath, ready to make a decision that could change everything. Would they fight for their voices, or would fear win the day? Amir could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him, a mix of dread and hope swirling in his chest. He didn't know how this would end, but he knew one thing: they had to hold their ground. The crowd's chant faltered for just a moment, the harsh reality of the guards surging toward them threatening to break their spirit. But Amir couldn't let that happen. Listen to me. He called into the uncertainty, his voice rising above the commotion. Look around. We are not alone. We stand together for kindness, and that is stronger than fear. For a heartbeat, there was silence, a collective pause where even the guards seemed momentarily taken aback. Then, as if awakened by Amir's words, a wave of shouts erupted from the crowd. Kindness. 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 The sound became a pulse, a heartbeat that echoed Amir's resolve. The guards advanced, shields gleaming ominously. Amir took a step forward, dragging the boy and Layla with him, feeling their small bodies firm up against the tremors of anxiety. They were his responsibility. He reached down and squeezed the boy's hand, a silent promise of safety. Stay strong, Amir whispered to him, but as the first guard raised his baton, sweeping it through the air, a surge of panic gripped Amir's heart. Would they really resort to violence? He scanned the faces around him, the fear etched in lines and creases, the resolve mingling with uncertainty. Jasmine was right next to him, her eyes blazing. This wasn't just about them anymore. This was for every person who had ever been silenced. With a sudden resolve that surprised even him, Amir stepped right up to the leader of the guards, and with all the courage he could muster, shouted, "You think this is power? Hurting us won't give you strength. It only shows your weakness." The leader paused, clearly thrown by the defiance. "You're just a boy." He spat, as if the words themselves could belittle Amir's spirit. "No," Amir countered, his voice steady. "I'm someone who believes in a better future. It's a choice we all get to make." Behind him, the chanting grew louder, building momentum, the crowd drawing energy from Amir's bravery. Each voice became a note in a powerful song of resistance, shaking the atmosphere around them. The boy beside him stood a bit taller, a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. Then, miraculously, the first guard hesitated. The ability to enforce fear seemed to wither before the vibrancy of unity. Amir felt a rush of exhilaration mingled with disbelief. Could they really be swaying the tide? Just then, the sound of a metallic clang rang out. Amir turned to see a number of others from the crowd gathering their courage, stepping forward to join him. Friends, neighbors, even those he barely knew were taking a stand, shoulders burning with the collective heat of hope. It was overwhelming, the strength pooling like a tidal wave, but then, a cry shattered the moment. Layla was suddenly tugging on Amir's sleeve, her voice small yet urgent. "Amir, what if they do hurt us? What if we're not strong enough?" Her innocence pierced through the charge in the air, reminding him of the real stakes. Amir knelt down, meeting her frightened gaze. "We will be strong together. And if they hurt us, we will show them that kindness is greater than any force." He glanced back at the guards, who seemed to hesitate, uncertain, looking as if they were caught between duty and something more profound, a spark of doubt, but in that very instant of uncertainty, Amir felt another wave building behind them. A crowd of mothers and fathers, children and elders, united now by a single purpose. If fear could be shared, so could courage, and Amir knew they were ready. "Now is our moment." he roared. "Let us show them what we're made of." But just as he rallied his last breath of courage, a harsh voice called out, breaking the fragile unity they had built. "Stop right there." The air grew thick with tension again, and Amir's stomach dropped as he turned to see what new threat approached. The crowd tensed as the voice sliced through the atmosphere, everyone turning with wide eyes. Amir's heart raced. Fear wrapped around him like some oppressive fog. The figure approaching was unmistakably powerful. A high-ranking official, dressed in a crisp uniform, strode forward, flanked by several guards. It was as though a storm was brewing, and Amir was in its direct path. "What are you doing?" The official boomed, his tone thunderous, commanding respect. "This is a restricted area. You will disperse, or we will take action." Amir's blood boiled at the blatant attempt to silence them. "Restricted by whose rules?" He shouted back, his voice cracking with emotion. "We have the right to be here. We're fighting for kindness, for every voice that has been crushed under fear." His words hung in the air, electric and defiant. Uncertainty flickered on the faces of the guards next to the official. They shifted their weight, glancing at each other. For a moment, Amir could see the small cracks in the armor of authority. But the official's face hardened, his eyes boring into Amir as if trying to drain away his spirit. "Fear is the law here," the official said, his lips curling into a chilling grin. "You think kindness will protect you?" Suddenly, the crowd erupted once more, their chants becoming a tidal wave of defiance. They were a living, breathing entity, a wall of unity and resolve. "Kindness! Kindness!" They shouted as one, the sound bouncing off the hard walls like a drumbeat of collective hope. Layla clutched Amir's hand tightly. He could feel her trembling but didn't let go. "Stay with me," he whispered to her, determination taking root in his heart. The official's smirk faltered for just a second, and in that instance, Amir understood what that glimmer of doubt could mean. This was their moment. They needed to push harder, to break the hold of fear even if it felt impossible. Amir took a deep breath, eyes scanning the faces of his neighbors, friends, and even people he had never met. He saw a woman clutching her small child, her gaze sincere and pleading. He saw an elder whose eyes shone with a wisdom that transcended generations. This moment couldn't be dismissed, couldn't be overridden by threats. "Look around you," Amir shouted. "We are not just fighting for ourselves but for every person whose voice has been silenced. For the children who will one day inherit this world. They need to know that kindness, that courage, is stronger than any fear." The crowd surged, pouring energy into his words. They echoed through the air like a wave crashing against a rocky shore. Amir lifted his chin, heart pounding in his chest. He was ready to make this right. The official's composure cracked for a split second. It was almost imperceptible, but Amir caught it. Hope bubbled within him. They had power, the power to choose unity over fear. If they could hold on just a little longer, but then, just as the chant reached its crescendo, the official raised a hand, signaling the guards to move forward. The glint of their shields shone like a beacon of looming danger. "Enough!" he shouted, his voice transporting authority. "You've had your fun. Now it's time to obey the law." Amir's breath hitched. Could they turn back now? Was this how it would end? Fear mingled with fire in his heart as he prepared to fight. Even if their backs were against the wall, they had each other, and that meant everything. "Amir!" Layla's voice was drowned out by the guards, but he could see the fear etched across her face. It struck him like a knife, twisting his gut. "Wait!" he yelled, raising a hand as he stood between the crowd and the advancing guards. "We can make a different choice." But would they listen? In that moment, uncertainty settled in the air thick and heavy. There was no clear path ahead, only a question that lingered in the abyss. Would they choose courage and kindness, or would fear reign supreme? And suddenly, just as he thought the moment was lost, faint whispers of laughter floated from the back of the crowd, surprising everyone. Amir turned, bewildered, trying to understand if this was a distraction or an opening. He needed to know what was happening, but all he could focus on was the glimmer of possibility brightening the atmosphere. Amir squinted into the crowd, searching through the sea of faces for the source of that laughter. It danced through the air like a melody, surreal amidst the tension. It was soft and sweet, a child's laughter. A little girl emerged from the throng, hand in hand with an older girl who couldn't have been much older than Amir. The younger girl's laughter pierced through the waves of anxiety that clutched at everyone. She must have been no more than 5, her cheeks round, her hair bouncing with the rhythm of her joyous giggles. This was a moment of innocence, juxtaposed against the weight of fear hovering in the air. The official's stern glare faltered for just a heartbeat, his eyes darting to the child. Amir felt a warmth spread through him as the child smiled wide, her face lit with pure joy. "Mommy, look!" the little girl squealed, pointing right at Amir. "They're all singing." The crowd parted slightly, and for a brief moment, the deafening roar of the officials and the guards faded away, replaced by the child's unwavering joy. The older girl glanced nervously at the official, but the little one tugged at her hand, pulling her forward. "Come on. Sing with them." "Maybe it's because they're showing kindness," Amir shouted, seizing the moment. "This is what we're fighting for. For them to know that kindness exists." More laughter erupted, mixed with shouts of agreement from the crowd. People nodded, their resolve hardening like steel, fueled by this tiny beacon of light. The tension began to shift, almost imperceptibly. The official's face twisted with confusion, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "This is not a game," he barked, but his voice wavered as the laughter of the crowd crescendoed. "Kindness is never a game," Amir countered, voice rising above the din. "It's the path we choose when fear shouts at us. It's the choice we make every single day." Layla tightened her grip on Amir's hand, her fear giving way to indignant hope. "We won't back down," she added, her voice steady. "Not now, not ever." The crowd began to chant again, this time with even more fervor, felt deep in their bones. "Kindness. Kindness." The chant swelled like a tide crashing against a daunting cliff. The official's eyes narrowed, and he stepped forward, raising his other hand to command authority once more. "You need to disperse now, or face the consequences." But now, the guards shifted uneasily, suddenly becoming aware of the spirit that surged within the crowd. The laughter and the determined chants wrapped around them like a blanket, creating an unexpected chasm between authority and the united front before them. Amir caught a glance of hope reflected in the eyes of the older girl next to the little one. Maybe this was a moment of awakening for more than just their voices. "Will you stand with us?" Amir called out to the guards, desperation spilling into his voice, challenging their perception. "This isn't just about us. This is about the children. About their future." To his surprise, one guard exchanged a furtive glance with another. Just for a moment, he saw something flicker behind their helmets' doubt. The moment was fragile, balanced on a knife's edge. What if they could unify even more? What if they could grow this flame into a wildfire of bravery? Amir's pulse raced, knowing they had to act quickly. Yet, the official, sensing the shift, scowled, determination hardening his features. "I want to let this happen." As panic surged within Amir, he realized the moment had arrived. Would their belief in unity endure, or would it falter under fear's oppressive grip? And then, just as the crowd seemed ready to charge forward, a voice rang out unexpectedly from the shadows beyond the guards, causing everyone to pause. "That's exactly what they're afraid of." Eyes widened, Amir turned toward the source, wondering who had just stepped into the spotlight and what it would mean for their fight. A figure emerged through the crowd, shoulders back, eyes gleaming with purpose. It was an elder, dressed in a simple yet dignified coat. He was old but composed, with a presence that seemed to command both respect and attention. "These children," he said, voice steady and powerful, "are the future. They carry the light of love and hope in their hearts." The crowd fell silent, all eyes on him. The elder's voice rose above the tension, "We're here not to divide but to unite. Kindness is our greatest strength." Amir felt a spark ignite within him. This man was a reminder of everything they were fighting for. He turned to Jet, the boy still at his side, and squeezed his hand. "Do you see? We are a part of something bigger. This is what we can achieve together." The elder walked closer, standing beside Amir and Jasmine, and took a moment to survey the crowd with a wise gaze. "In times of fear, it's easy to forget that kindness and community bind us all. Today, we choose unity over fear." Jasmine's voice broke through with exuberance, "Together, we will stand. We won't let them take our voices." The crowd erupted again, stronger this time. "Kindness. Kindness. Kindness." Amir glanced at the guards. They shifted uneasily, glances exchanged, their demeanor softening just a touch. The elder's words hung in the air, and Amir seized the moment. "Do you see how united we stand? We won't back down. Not for ourselves, and certainly not for our children. We deserve a world built on respect and understanding." A murmur passed through the crowd, echoing the sentiment. The guards' resolve seemed to waver, their authoritative armor feeling a bit less invincible. The elder continued, "Fear is not a weapon to wield against the innocent, it's a barrier to true connection. Let us build bridges, not walls. And if we fall today, we'll inspire others tomorrow." Amir shouted, his heart pounding. He felt the pounding beat of unity in the chant, and the energy surged, almost palpable in the air. Layla giggled, her carefree laughter breaking the tension once more. With renewed energy, Amir stepped forward again. "Your actions today can pave the way for peace. Are you really willing to stand against something as powerful as love?" The crowd responded with fervor, reaching new heights. "No." They roared in unison. The lead guard hesitated, and the expression on his face showed it all: uncertainty, confusion. The official's jaw clenched tightly, frustration pouring off him like a waterfall. But as murmurs continued to ripple through the crowd, he could see they weren't backing down. Amir dared to press on. "Choose a legacy of kindness. Today, let us show the world that we can rise above fear. Together." The chant grew louder, emboldened, echoing through the terminal, shaking the very foundation of the status quo. "Kindness. Kindness. Kindness." The elder smiled gently, of an age that accumulated wisdom, inspiring confidence as he nodded in agreement. "This is how change happens. We stand tall, united. In love and hope, we are stronger." Amir watched as the tension unraveled. The lead guard's expressions shifted, even the official faltered. And then it happened: a handful of the guards lowered their shields, the sound resonating like an awakening. The crowd began to chant again, fueled by an intensity that surged. "Kindness will prevail. Kindness will prevail." Amir realized the transformation happening around him. "Let us walk together, step forward as one. Everyone deserves respect." Security had become a kaleidoscope of hesitation and support, the boundaries thickening between fear and courage dissolving right before their eyes. And in that moment, Amir understood their fight was gathering strength. Do it for the kids, for the future, for every voice lifted in hope. He called out, his heart full, his soul bright. The little girl with the round cheeks stood tall, smiling wide, laughter spilling over into the crowd, weaving into the fabric of their resolve. The official's uncertainty compelled him to step back, letting the energy churn around him, like a storm dissipating when faced with light. "We are here to build," he said finally, his voice low, "not destroy." United, they took a step forward together, a singular entity illuminated by hope. And in that moment of shared courage, Fear bowed before kindness and victory unfurled across the room, wrapping everyone in its embrace. As Amir held Layla, feeling the warmth of their unity, he understood that this was just the beginning. Change wouldn't be easy, but with bravery ignited in hearts, nothing could quell the light they created. Stay together, Amir breathed, this is our moment. And as they moved together, he could finally breathe easy, knowing that kindness had forged a new path forward in unity. Now, don't even think about leaving without showing your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire change. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, your support means the world. Comment below and share your reactions. What did you feel during this incredible transformation? And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this heartfelt journey. Let us spread the love.